On the morning of June 30th, 1908, the skies over Siberia were torn apart by a flash brighter than the sun. A moment later, a blast of unimaginable force erupted over the Tunguska River region. It flattened over 80 million trees, scorched 830 square miles of wilderness, and sent a shockwave around the globe. Yet no crater was ever found. No fragments, no impact site, only devastation and silence. This is the story of the Tunguska event, the greatest explosion ever witnessed on Earth with no clear cause. At 7:17 a.m., a brilliant blue-white fireball streaked across the morning sky. People living hundreds of miles away described a pillar of fire moving eastward, followed by a thunderous shockwave. Windows shattered as far as Vanavara, 40 miles away. Men were thrown to the ground, horses bolted, the heat singed hair and clothes even at great distances. For days afterward, the skies over Europe glowed eerily bright. Barometers as far away as Britain and China recorded atmospheric pressure waves, ripples from the blast that circled the Earth twice. It was the energy of a 10 to 15 megaton explosion, nearly 1,000 times more powerful than Hiroshima, released in an instant over one of the most remote regions on Earth. But at the time, no one could reach it. The nearest railway was hundreds of miles away, and the land was a swamp of dense forest and frozen marsh. It would take 19 years before anyone even set foot at the epicenter. In 1927, Russian mineralogist Leonid Kulnik led an expedition to the Tunguska region. He expected to find a massive crater, the scar of a meteorite impact. But when he arrived, what he saw defied all expectations. The forest was still flattened in every direction. Trees radiated outward from a single point like spokes on a wheel. At ground zero, trunks stood upright, but were stripped bare of branches, as if blasted by a vertical shockwave. The soil showed signs of intense heat, but there was no crater and no fragments of any asteroid or comet to be found. The explosion had clearly occurred in the air, miles above the surface, but what actually exploded remained unknown. For decades, the mystery haunted scientists and conspiracy theorists alike. Many scientists today agree that the Tunguska event was caused by a space rock, a stony asteroid or comet fragment about 50 to 100 meters wide, traveling over 27,000 miles per hour. As it entered the atmosphere, the pressure and heat became immense, and at around 5 to 10 kilometers above the surface, the object disintegrated in midair, releasing an explosion equivalent to 10 to 15 megatons of TNT. The blast wave flattened the forest below, but left no crater, since the meteor never reached the ground. Small glassy debris particles containing nickel and silicate were later found embedded in tree resin and bogs, a faint fingerprint of extraterrestrial material. But this explanation leaves questions. Why no clear fragments, and why the unusual atmospheric glow? A variation of the main theory proposes that Tunguska was the airburst of a comet nucleus made mostly of ice and volatile gases rather than rock. When it hit the atmosphere, it completely vaporized, producing a massive explosion and injecting fine ice dust into the stratosphere. That dust could have scattered sunlight across the northern hemisphere, explaining the mysterious night glows seen across Europe. And some researchers suggested a terrestrial cause, that natural gas trapped beneath the Siberian permafrost erupted and ignited, causing an enormous explosion. Methane pockets are common in the region, and similar bursts have occurred naturally, but none anywhere to this scale. And then in 1973, physicists proposed something far stranger, that Tunguska was caused by a tiny black hole passing through Earth. As it entered, it would have compressed and vaporized matter, creating an enormous blast that exited through the opposite side of the planet, leaving another explosion somewhere in the Atlantic. And although no such second event was ever detected, this theory is still occasionally cited in fringe astrophysics as theoretical possibilities. Another explanation could be a chunk of antimatter collided with Earth's atmosphere, annihilating on contact with normal matter and releasing pure energy. It would indeed produce a blast matching Tunguska's power, but the lack of radiation detection makes this theory unprovable. And there is also the UFO theory. Soviet ufologists in the 1960s and 70s proposed that the Tunguska explosion wasn't natural at all, but the destruction of an extraterrestrial craft. Some versions claim the craft self-destructed deliberately to avoid striking a populated area, and others say it malfunctioned midair, detonating over the forest. No metallic wreckage or radiation patterns were ever found, but this story has become an enduring part of UFO research in Russia. Many scientists and historians have speculated about advanced technology or alien interventions in their writing on this event. And among the more eccentric theories is one involving Nikola Tesla. In 1908, Tesla was experimenting with wireless power transmission. Some believe he was testing his directed energy weapon, the so-called death ray, and that Tunguska was the unintended result, a beam of concentrated energy striking Siberia. And with all these theories, this event sparked new interest in planetary defense, mentor monitoring, and the study of near-Earth objects. Today, space agencies track thousands of asteroids in an effort to prevent another Tunguska-scale catastrophe. But the mystery still lingers. No fragments or definitive evidence can prove or disprove any of these theories, leaving it an unhealed scar on the Siberian forest, a century-old riddle, and the humbling reminder that our planet drifts through a dangerous cosmic shooting gallery.